Welcome to today's public demo around NetSuite's newest suite solution around vendor prepayments. My name is Ryan Hatch, and I'll be leading today's demonstration. A quick background: I was previously a NetSuite systems administrator for over 3 years, and am now a solution consultant bringing NetSuite's leading practices to companies like yours. We'll start off with a little bit of background about suite solutions and the need for a vendor prepayment suite solution. So, suite solutions in general are a prepackaged block of professional services hours that go into a specific solution to solve a business need that is not currently out of the box with NetSuite. In today's case, we will be talking about advanced payments to vendors, also known as vendor prepayments. In many industries, this is a standard practice to pay vendors before a bill or an invoice is actually received. And now we have added things like custom fields and workflows to allow you to do that easily and even automate the process. More specifically, we introduce automating things that are going to not only save you time by doing things like create advanced payments and allow you to track and apply those prepayments to bills, but also track those payments against purchase orders and have full visibility into not only the bill credits, the payments, but again, ability to automate that and keep that as manual or less manual as possible. Throughout the process, you'll have full visibility into things like available bill credits, and we call them orphan credits, so maybe they're past credits that haven't been applied, and apply them as well. All of this features and functionality that is not currently standard with NetSuite. Things to highlight about the solution is that regardless of whether you're using a one-world or non-one-world instance of NetSuite, you'll be able to use and apply the suite solution in the same way. So for instance, if you're working with multiple subsidiaries, you can apply this to one or multiple subsidiaries at the same time. Our one prerequisite is that you must be using purchase orders already, and you need to have payment processing set up as well. The first choose is, once we go through our vendor prepayment preferences, is the ability to either prepayments automatically, or if you want them to be more manual, you can do those as well. And when we do go through those preferences, we'll be able to talk about things like ability to send out email notifications to the vendors so they know that you have paid in advance, and also the prepayment tracking and reporting on the prepayments as well. So here is a solution overview and the process that we're going to take today. So the first thing we will talk about is entering a purchase order after we've gone through the prepayments. We'll then go through, and if there is a prepayment required, which in today's example there will be, the first thing we'll do is enter a prepayment record. The purchase is in that approved status, which today we will be doing by default. Then we're going to go ahead and create a prepayment bill. Create a prepayment bill that will trigger a payment process. And again, this is a series of custom fields and workflows that get introduced with the suite solution. And we will then, after we do the payment process, have an unapplied payment credit, which will be an outstanding credit, which we can then apply once the invoice is received to the vendor. In today's world in NetSuite, we're used to the fact that we're just going from a purchase order to receipt to avail, and no ability to apply that prepayment. So adding in all of this functionality in the upper right-hand part of the screen as part of the suite solution, giving you the tools to make those prepayments and track it all along the life cycle at the same time. Now jump into a live NetSuite environment and walk through from the creation of the prepayment preferences to the creation of a purchase order, and then down the line to creating that prepayment and applying it accordingly. So we are in NetSuite. The first thing we will do is pull up our page for prepayment preferences. So we'll just do a quick search here, and we'll bring up our vendor prepayment preferences search. So all of the prepayment preferences, and you can have several at once, will show up on the screen. So we're going to our edit mode and view the different preferences that we can either turn on or turn off for the solution. The first thing that we'll do is define a clearing account. So once that prepayment credit has been issued and then applied, we'll need to sweep it into a clearing account, and that's where you define that here. Next, you have to choose which roles are going to have access to apply these payments and have access to features and functionality of it, and we do that here. Move on, applications, so we can choose whether or not, and this goes into the theme of automating some of the processes. So we can go in and create an automatic notification for the vendor when the prepayment has been paid. So with them a payment, we've created the prepayment on our side, and now we're going to send this template out to them to say that we have paid the bill. So there's a record of it in email format. We can also set by default a prepayment hold. So if we want, we can apply a payment hold to all prepaid bills, or we can just apply a hold to bills after purchase order approval. So that means that once they have been approved, they're still going to go in a hold status, and that way it gives you a little bit more control on when you go in and actually apply a prepayment. So now to demonstrate this process, we're going to start by entering a purchase order. So we'll go to our purchase order screen. We'll type our vendor. Then we'll go ahead and enter in an item to add to the purchase order. So no different than you are handling purchase orders today, although you will notice there is a tab for vendor prepayments. And we'll get more into that later as we our vendor prepayments and they get applied to the purchase order to track. Go ahead and add the item and save the purchase order. The purchase order has been created. You'll see that it mostly looks the same as it does today, except now we'll see a new button for vendor prepayment. So go ahead and click the button for our vendor prepayment. At the top of our vendor prepayment form, and again, this is a custom form as part of the solution, you'll see information regarding the purchase order that's related to it and some different statuses and amounts that are associated with the associated purchase order as well. All we need to do on this page is enter in some basic info about the purchase order just for tracking and reporting purposes. So in this case, we'll do add in a brief memo. And we'll make the amount the same as the purchase order and our bill due date. So if it's today, we'll default to that, or we can change that as well. We'll go and save the vendor prepayment. And vendor prepayment is really a holding for things like the vendor prepayment bill, the prepayment bill payment record, and the prepayment credit. So we have created the vendor prepayment. We'll see the first record that is associated with it that gets attached, and that is a vendor bill. So the bill is automatically created when we create the vendor payment, and we click into the bill, we get associated payments that will be associated with it. Now, as we had defaulted on our settings, we have a payment hold on the bill. So and pull that off. We status as well, as you can see by default. So we'll save it, pull the payment hold, and now we can go ahead and pay that prepayment bill. So now you see the button appear for make payment, and just like you would a normal bill, you can go ahead and make a payment. So once to pay the bill in the bill payment screen, we'll notice that there's a checkbox already next to the associated bill. And really what that is it automates the vendor prepayment that we already created, and it starts the sweeping process of bringing that into a bill payment of the prepayment bill. So we aren't into the vendor bill yet on the purchase order. We're only paying the prepayment bill at this point, but it does default to this, making our lives a little bit easier. And under vendor prepayments tab, we can see that it defaults to a prepayment transaction. So it knows that we're only paying a prepayment transaction, which means that it will apply that account that we first defined, in this case, the accrued expenses account. So go ahead and save this record, and that means that the vendor prepayment now paid in full, as we can see here at the top of the screen. So where we started at that vendor prepayment record, we'll see that I started out with just the vendor prepayment bill that was automatically generated, and we have both a vendor payment, number 2147, as well as a bill credit. And this credit is created automatically, and when it goes to, or when it comes time to actually paying that vendor bill, we're going to pay it with this bill credit that was created. So throughout the entire process, we're tracking it. We have links to all of the records that get summarized at the vendor prepayment. We even have a link back to the original purchase order, and when we're in the purchase order, we'll have a link to this vendor prepayment record. So no matter where you go throughout the process, you'll have a link and you'll have that auditability throughout the workflow, and no need to go track down previous payments or records of payments. It's all going to be stored in one place, which is really going to solve a lot of headaches, especially for customers like you who prefer to pay the vendor bills in advance. So again, to summarize what we've done so far, we did the vendor prepayment, which triggered a bill being created against the prepayment. We paid the bill, and as a result of paying the bill, a credit was created. So this will all happen at the point where you're making that vendor prepayment, and now we can, sort of go hands-off approach until weeks or months down the road whenever you receive that invoice from the vendor. Go back into the purchase order. And from earlier, I mentioned the vendor prepayments tab and that we'd be using it later. So if we go into that vendor prepayments tab, all of those same items are now tracked here as well as on the vendor prepayment record that we just looked at. So we have that same vendor prepayment bill, we have bill payment as well as that bill credit. So you can always go back, or when you pull up the purchase order down the road and it's time to actually bill the purchase order, you'll always have that visibility and the links into the associated records of prepayment. So imagine that maybe a week or two have gone by and we finally received that invoice from the vendor. Let's go ahead and jump into our normal process, which would be a bill against that purchase order. And now instead of paying it at the time of the bill, we've already paid it. So it's just a matter of applying that credit to the bill. So let's go ahead and save the bill. Now, if the bill has been saved, we'll notice a new button has come up here as well, and it's a button to apply prepayments. So it makes it a really easy process, now that all the prepayments have been applied, to go and actually apply them to the bill. Now to our Apply Prepayment screen, we'll notice that we have our bill that we already paid here, and credit amount that we can now apply. So we can go ahead and either apply a percentage or the entire amount. Also orphan credit. So I mentioned earlier that if you have outstanding credits that have not been applied, here we can go in and apply some amount of that as well. So for instance, maybe you want to apply $100 on this one and $100 from the credit, you do so. And in this screen, it will summarize all of the orphan credits that are outstanding, and you can apply payment in that way. So now that we've applied our prepayments, we can see that our bill is paid in full. So when we go back to our purchase order, we can see that all that's left to do is receive the actual items. Everything's been paid in full. We've applied that vendor prepayment credit, and all the way we've tracked it, and there's no need to track down payments or track down prepayments manually, maybe through an Excel spreadsheet that you might be doing today. It's all in place and all introduced with lots of automation, as well as things like custom records and workflows to make your business and life easier. So just to recap what we went over today, after creating our vendor prepayment preferences by entering a purchase order, which you do today, but we switch things up by entering the prepayment record, which is new, and creating some automated processes around creating a prepayment bill when we created that prepayment record, and going through the process of paying and applying a payment to the prepayment bill. So We then to apply a prepayment credit as a way of paying the vendor bill. And all of this is added functionality that comes with part of the SuiteSolution behind the vendor prepayment SuiteSolution specifically. So the whole idea is that we want to give you all these time-saving tools, and also, the error-prone process of trying to create these vendor prepayments manually and then track them along the way. Well, we want to eliminate all of those errors, as well as streamlining and automating the process as well, which is going to make both the relationship with your vendors better. They're getting paid sooner, they're getting notified about it sooner, as well as when it comes down the road to receiving the invoice, the applying of those prepayment credits is a really smooth and seamless process. And we think that altogether, the added functionality will really enhance your NetSuite experience as a whole. So that's it today. Thank you for joining today's session. I hope you learned a little bit more about how the vendor payment SuiteSolution can help enhance your NetSuite experience. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your NetSuite representative. Thank you.